Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Helmut Sverniak, and I am Vice President for Conferences of Terena. And for this moment, I am also the chair of the last plenary session. Now, it's my pleasure to invite the last keynote speakers, Maria Höll. She is CEO of the Swedish University Computer Network. Maria currently co-chairs the RIPE Cooperation Working Group. She is, for last 2 years, vice chair for the ICANN Government Advisory Committee, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. She also acted as a Swedish representative in the high-level group on internet governance by EU. And she has a long experience on working on ICT and internet policy issues. The title of Maria's keynote speech is The Internet Government's Battle at the Edge of the Desert. Maria, please.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here again, actually. I came here on Sunday and I had a couple of days here in Maastricht with you guys, but I had to rush back to Sweden yesterday because I know it sounds crazy, but I had to do it. My daughter had her graduation, and there's no way I could miss that. But anyway, I'm here again. And another awkward thing, actually, is that, well, it's not awkward, but it's awkward to be here, maybe. It's the Swedish National Day today, and I didn't have any flag. Sorry for that. I should have had that. So, anyway, I realize now when I see my title, it sounds a little bit dramatic, actually. But when I wrote this title and I had the opportunity to be the closing plenary keynote, I was actually overwhelmed of what was happening or what happened in December at the World Conference on International Telecommunications, the WICIT meeting, the ITU meeting that took place in December. And I'm still overwhelmed, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that and how it connects to what you and we are doing here. It's my first Terena conference, so I would actually, if you don't mind, take the opportunity to introduce myself a little bit, who I am. Yeah, as you know, I'm the CEO for the Swedish University Network since February. I am born in Luleå, and I studied at the Luleå Technical University, and I live in Stockholm. And the pictures you see is my summer house up in the north of Sweden. And the other picture is from, well, the neighborhood nearby in Stockholm where I live. Actually, it's very interesting to take over an organization like Sunet. The Sunet was really from the very beginning. Sunet was the beginning and was before internet in Sweden. And the guy that had been in charge for Sunet for over 30 years, Hans Wallberg, he's a legend in Sweden. He's a very, very known and very competent, a very nice person. So it's a bit interesting, I have to say, to take over his role. But I like it very much so far. Anyway, I'm not going to dig into everything I've been doing and about my jobs and so on, but a few things I would like to mention when I have the chance to introduce myself for you guys. I started to work as a programmer at the steel industry because my Master of Science, Computer Science course I was doing at the university was very much destined to the heavy industry. So that's where I started. But then I started to work for the municipality of Sandviken, and I was an IT manager there for many years, actually. And one of the things we did, which many other municipalities actually in Sweden did by then, in the beginning of the 90s, was, oh, you have the Swedish flag there. Thank you, Pelle. You have to wave also. Anyway. Great, thank you. Thank you very much for that. Now we celebrate it even here in Maastricht. Anyway, by then in the beginning of the 90s, many municipalities started to build their own networks. And why we started to doing that in Sandviken was because it was very expensive to get the connections to schools, to other well, municipality organizations and so on. So we started to build our own networks. And then, like many other, by the way, in Sweden, many municipalities did that. And the neighbor city, Gävle, which is much bigger than Sandviken, wanted to do the same thing. So I got hired to kickstart the network, Gavlenet. And of course, I thought, I did it once, I could do it again. But of course, maybe as universities are as well, you can't do the same thing in 2 different municipalities. Maybe because Gävle is like the bigger city and Sandviken is the smaller one, of course you can't do the same thing. So I had to do it all over again, but in a different way. But that was very, very good, experience for me to really dig down the fiber and do it in a different way and find the business models and so on. But as many other municipalities were doing the same thing, the Swedish organization, the Swedish Association of Local Authorities, they wanted to have somebody that was actually in this area. So I started to work for them for some years as an IT strategist focused on broadband. But then one day, my dear friend, actually also former minister for ICT in Sweden in the Social Democrat former regime in Sweden, called me and said, the government also needs to know about this. We have governmental grants we're going to shovel out to the remote areas in Sweden. So we need somebody that takes care of that for the government. So then that's when I started to work for the Swedish government. And even though I've been working there for 10 years, until now in February when I came to Sunet. But we have a right-wing regime now, so I managed to stay there, even though we switched regimes. And the couple of days when I've been here at the TNC, I've heard so many persons talking about big data and a lot of research projects and all the challenges. So I think it's fun for me actually saying that it's not only Sunet, it's also the Swedish Research Council. Actually, I'm hired by them. The former person that was in charge of Sunet, he was hired by a university, the Umeå University, but I'm hired by the Swedish Research Council. That's a new format, a new organization. I think that's very nice, and I think and hope that I'm going to get a closer dialogue with the researchers by having my platform, not only Sunet, but also in the Swedish Research Council. I don't know if I have to point at that. Maybe I don't, sorry. This is a simplified picture of organizations, platforms, forums that I've been active in, and my very important personal network is actually based on this. I've been doing a lot of work with all these organizations. And of course, this is an international picture because, of course, you have a lot of collaboration and communication with many, many players in Sweden as well. They should have been in the picture as well, of course. And also, I have so many good friends and colleagues at other governments all around the world. They are not in the picture either. Neither are ISPs or vendors or suppliers that, of course, have been in my very important network. But my network is growing. So now I have this community also as well. That feels very nice, I have to say. And but I don't see so many overlap, actually. Okay, now Isaac was here in the previous panel, but I thought that we're going to see more overlap and see maybe more entrants at the RIPE meetings and so on. But that is something I'm thinking of a little bit. But no matter what kind of job I have, and no matter what employer I have, I am really in favor of, and I love open dialogue. I love networking. I love doing things together with other persons, experts, organizations. And so, of course, I will continue to do when being in charge of Sunet. And unfortunately, not many governments are very famous for being open. But that's the way I'm trying to work when I've been working at the government for the last 10 years. There are things happening around the world. There are things happening. I mean, many of you speakers here have been talking about a lot of challenges that are happening around the world. Many good things are happening, but also many bad things. And one example, when I have RIPE up there, is actually the RIPE Cooperation Working Group that I'm in co-chair of, had its meeting in Dublin now in May. And just one tiny example is the EID and Trust Service Regulation in the EU. And it was a person called Andrea Servida from the European Commission and DG Connect that was having a presentation about that. And it was a lot of worries in the room after that presentation, because that system that is maybe is going to be the regulation is not in line, at least what we are doing at SUNET, with the federated ID system we have, or other organizations having the same federated system. That's worrying. We need to engage. We need to have much more dialogue. We don't want to have talking about bad regulation, by the way, or stupid regulation that one person mentioned in the previous panel debate. Actually, just because you cooperate and do things together, it doesn't mean that you have to go to every single meeting. I mean, you can't travel around the world just on meetings. You have to do stuff. I think cooperation is something that you should do on a day-to-day basis. In Sweden, we have something we called the Reference Group for Internet Governance that I created a few years ago. And we gather people talking about the issues, what kind of regulation is coming up for the government, what kind of decisions will the government make, what kind of standpoints, views should the government have that are sane. That was very good. I will continue to go to that meetings in Sweden, engage SUNET in those discussions as well. And one thing I didn't know, that's funny, I didn't know actually that RIPE is coming out of Tirana. Isn't that cute? I didn't know that, but that's funny. Of course, I should have, if I would have thought a little bit more, of course that's the case, because that's the case for many things coming from SUNET, by the way, in Sweden. But anyway. I started to go to my first RIPE meeting in 2004, when a person of mine, a close friend of mine, said, come on, you need to go to the RIPE meetings. A lot of stuff is happening there. It's concern for the government. So I started to go there. And of course, I saw a lot of mutual understanding, mutual interest and challenges and things that are of interest for the governments, IPv6, DNSSEC, and so on. And after that, RIPE created the government roundtable just to meet the governments and also the cooperation working group whom I'm sharing, where we can have those dialogues, talk about mutual things, help each other, make sure that the government go in the right direction and so on. That's very important. And the first day, I listened to some very interesting speakers. I don't know if I pronounce the name right, but Luc Söte from the University of Maastricht, he talked about global research, thanks to digital infrastructure. And Irvin from SurfNet talked about innovating together in global services. Abril Rodriguez from Telefonica, he talked about big data and gather data. Not that I'm sure I would trust Telefonica for my data, but my diagnostics. Neither would I trust maybe TeliaSonera and so on, but that's another discussion, by the way. Steve Wolf from Internet 2 talked about NREN 3.0 and also GRENs. That's the first time I heard the GREN, the global RENs. And Curtis Lindqvist, of course, from CEO for the Swedish IX NetNode, he talked about the role of the crucial role of internet exchange organizations and activities, of course. But everything points out to one thing that came into my mind, except for Curtis, not so much was talking about what's happening with internet. What kind of way are we going? What's happening? What is the future internet going to look like? I didn't hear so much about that. And I'm not talking about the technology here. I'm not talking about speed or capacity in that sense. I'm talking about the governance of internet. Who's going to decide things? And what will it end up with? And how can we cooperate instead of somebody having control, too much control? Or how does it work? How will it be? Actually, this is not a joke, actually. This is a picture taken from one of my friends going to the WTPF, the World Telecom Policy Forum meeting in May. It's a UN ITU activity. And he actually put on his helmet, the UN helmet. This is actually, by the way, Dr. Hamadoun Touré, which is actually Secretary General, it's called, for ITU. And yeah, we are not taking over the internet. And by we, he means ITU. And ITU, that's the governments. So I don't really believe him. For how come I've been traveling around the world for meetings here and there and trying to struggle to save the internet or well, from our side of view, I mean, there are other sides and other perspectives. Of course, that's why we have those really hard discussions. But at the RIPE Cooperation Working Group, this is actually my co-chair, Patrik Fällström, who is, well, you can see him, he's working for NetNode. And he wants people to engage. And I don't see so many entrants at, well, coming to this cooperation working group, participating in those discussions, because I think those issues we are talking about are of interest for all of us running networks, part of internet. And I didn't see any well, I saw a few entrants actually. I talked to them in Dublin, the RIPE meeting, but I didn't see any managers actually. But anyway, I think it would be interesting to see more of you presence from the different entrants coming to those meetings. Maybe you do, I don't know, but I saw a few of you actually. But maybe it could be more. This is this is the desert stuff that was in my title. I was referring to this conference that took place during these 2 crazy weeks, I have to say. We had a Swedish delegation there, rather large, I have to say, 12 persons, coming from these different sectors, because we wanted to have an open discussion. We even had a person from another political party that is not part of the Swedish government. That was a bit fun. Piratpartiet was a woman from that in our delegation. That was maybe a bit provocative, but anyway, we had a very good discussion and so much support from our other persons outside the government in the delegation that could help us with all these very interesting or crazy, I have to say, discussions or crazy proposals coming from countries that have the different point of view of things than we have. Anyway, these ITRs are the International Telecommunication Regulation, and they were revised last time 1988. So it was time to do something, even though it's, for our point of view, only having a good regulation that actually works, or having a regulation. Well, this is obsolete. We don't need this. We don't need a top global, regulation. I mean, nations or countries have their own regulation already put in place. So why do we need this? But there are countries that don't have any regulations or really want to have something they could hook on and say, okay, this is an ITU regulation, this is the global thing, we can do the same. So, of course, it was important for us to struggle to make this particular regulation as good as possible. And, of course, not contradict our own regulation. This was a hard work. For 2 weeks, it was the most crazy 2 weeks in my entire life. I didn't sleep or eat for 2 weeks, more or less. It was absolutely bananas. And also the ITU meetings are fairly closed. I mean, okay, they were webcasting, so you could sit at home and see some of them, some of the sessions, but many of the sessions were very closed, even close to countries. Some of them went to a little room and made agreements and so on. It was not very good, I have to say. And I like openness. That was not the case. Actually, Sweden, for a year or 2 ago, we tried to force, or we proposed ITU to have all the documents open to everybody. Well, just put them on the web page, and the people can see what is discussed, what proposals are coming in, and what is the result. We failed. We failed. Of course, we put the document on our site anyway, so people could come and, well, on our regulators' site, so people can see them anyway. But it is not good. I don't like these kind of things, because they're talking about internet stuff. They're talking about things that we are working with in closed rooms. That is not okay. Well, actually, we have had quite a few other fights with Mr. Hamadon Touré and ITU from Sweden. He doesn't like us. I think he thinks that we are a bit messy, I have to say. I will give you an example of one of those discussions. Actually, this was absolutely crazy. I said that word a lot of times now. There was one proposal that governments should have control over names, addressing, and numbers. Okay, I immediately think IP. Okay, governments want to have control over IP things that are run by the industry or us. So wait a minute here. So I asked Hamadoun, so how come you want to do this? I mean, are you talking about IP or not? No, we are talking about X400. Oh, interesting, X400. So when was, and remember I told you that the last revised ITRs was from 1988. Okay, so I asked Hamadoun, but wait a minute, how old is X400 then? And that was a guy Hamadoun didn't know, so it was a guy standing next to him and said, oh, it's from the beginning of the 80s. Oh, but wait a minute, I said. I was standing and arguing with this guy. It was a big ring of people standing around us. It was very strange. But anyway, I said, how come? If the X400 is from the, I don't know if it's true, by the way, but the point is, if it is the case it's from the beginning of the 80s, how come they didn't write anything about names, addressing, and numbers in the ITRs from 1988? And how come we suddenly now, in a new regulation, have to write about something that is about X400? I mean, that doesn't make sense. Of course, the guy didn't have any answer, so he's laughing. That's what he's doing there. But I can assure you that for many of these kind of sometimes very detailed discussions about various things. And I will show you just a few examples of those. Well, you can read yourself. This was, I don't know from what country this was coming from. But, well, as you can see, the countries should be able to actually get information about how the routing is going. Countries should also have, as you see, control over these names and numbering and address. And of course, there were a bunch of different security aspects discussed as well. And another discussion, I mean, this is just a few examples of all that I call craziness that was up on the table that wanted to be put in the global regulation. I mean, of course, we can't accept that. But they were also talked about enhanced cooperation. We have to have oh yeah, of course, but that's what we're doing here and now. We're interrogating with our friends and collaborate with our colleagues and so on around the world. We're doing, and what do you mean by enhanced cooperation? Oh, no, they mean they have to create another UN body. So there we can have some cooperation. Why not go to the RIPE meetings? Why don't go to the ITF meetings? Why don't you take, if you want to have control of the IP addressing policy, I mean, go to any of the RIR's working groups. Or whatever, come to a Tirrena meeting. We don't have to have another UN body for that. Countries, governments could engage in the already existing organizations and groups and so on. So what happened? The red countries went home after 2 weeks of struggling, not signing. Sweden didn't sign, the rest of the European countries didn't sign. And, well, you see it for yourself. Actually, the white ones, I don't know how they decided afterwards. I don't know what happened there. But one interesting thing, I don't know if it's connected, but you can see that Costa Rica, for instance, you can see Senegal, you can see Kenya didn't sign as well as we didn't. Because, I don't know, but ICANN meetings have been there. Maybe they realize ICANN is another body, of course, for cooperation and collaboration. Maybe a little bit crazy, but anyway. So this is the result of it. So the world is kind of split. Some countries really want a regulation for many reasons. I think that some countries don't have any regulation at all. They need something. So okay, this is okay for them. But it could also be that some countries with the, as I say, crazy proposals want to control things, monitor, blocking, filtering, and these kind of things. Actually, we managed, I have to say, after these 2 weeks, to kind of clean it up so much. So this example that I showed you, they didn't go through. They didn't go through. So the regulation is not that bad. There are a few things we still had as a redliner for Sweden, and we had constantly dialogue with our minister and of course the Minister of Foreign Affairs how to act, and because it was so many things happening, we really needed to be backed from our home country, so to speak, from capital. But we didn't sign. There were a few things we just couldn't. So what's happening now? Well, the regulation is there, and some countries are going to use it. But we are not. I mean, we have our stuff already. The EU countries, we have regulation. So we don't really need this. Actually, RIPE, well, talking about collaboration and having networks of good persons, expert, to make right decisions and also get help with expert thoughts and so on. The RIPE community, the RIPE NCC were active, very active, and very, very helpful at this meeting. But I didn't see any entrance there. Anyway, because these things are could affect us. Of course, now this was about the ITRs, and we did, some countries, as you see, didn't sign, but still there are activities, things happening around the internet. Some countries want to take control over stuff, and we don't think that's okay. I don't think that's okay. So of course we need to engage, and I would like to see more entrants engaging in these kind of things, because it's going to affect us. And especially as I've been listening to many speakers during these days, except for yesterday, about cloud computing, students, they want a ubiquitous communication, they want to be here and there, and they constantly want to have information. You have the federated ID system and so on. So I mean, of course, this means a global open network. It needs to work. We don't want to have fragmented systems. We don't want to have blocking and filtering and these kind of things. We don't want to have governments having control over things they don't know about. So, I mean, it didn't stop there. in May, as the picture I showed you of Hamadoun Touré when he had his helmet on, that meeting was in May, and the outcome of this meeting are a few opinions in these areas. I'm not going to go through them all, but the thing is, of course, well, they're just opinions, and you can say, but okay, the regulation is interesting, it's important, because that's going to affect us, it's going to be, legislation. But opinions, who cares about opinions? And every year this WTPF meeting goes on, we have some opinions, and there come proposals from countries and so on about various things. But even though, I mean, every word that is in printed form is going to be used. So we see for every these meetings, we see they are constantly moving small steps towards something that I don't think is good. So even though they're only opinions, well, they are there and they're going to be used. So I couldn't be there because I was at the RIPE meeting taking care of my cooperation working group, but my colleagues were there and some people from the industry, of course. RIPE NCC was there, of course, so, and many, many other stakeholders, because this, unless from other meetings, was an open meeting. But so I think the outcome of this was actually good. People, the RIRs, and I talked to RIPE afterwards, the outcome was good, it's okay. But so many proposals came up, again, in the same line as the proposal for the WCIT meeting. So they had to struggle. They had to struggle really hard to make it good. So I think the outcome from this one was good, but it's not going to stop there, because next autumn in 2014, it's going to be the new plenipotentiary meeting. I mean, the meeting when ITU decides what they're going to do for the upcoming 4 years. And the plenipotentiary meeting, I was in Guadalajara for 3 years ago. It was also another almost 2 years of struggling. And one crazy detail I just have to mention to you, it was many countries, they didn't, when we said, ITU and the countries could cooperate with certain organizations in this area, and we want, why don't you write the organizations then? So it's obvious it's the RIRs, it's the ICANN, the IETF, and so on. Some countries didn't even want to write their name. They didn't even want to write the name ICANN, IETF, and so on. So after around 1 week of struggling, we managed to have it as a footnote, a little star. And in the bottom of the side, it says like organizations, but not limited to blah, 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 something like ICANN, ITF, and so on. I mean, they are the guys running this, and you, and the ISPs and so on. But they couldn't write it. That's so crazy. And this goes on and on. It's a council working group, there are coming new meetings, and this discussion just continues. So I think some way or the other, we need to engage in this and at least keep track on what's happening. And, well, RIPE NCC is doing a good job. I know there are many, many other organizations. Probably somebody of you here are engaged already. As I say, it's my first Arena meeting. I haven't talked to all of you, so I don't know exactly what's going on, but I think it's important. Anyway, to summarize this, I think we can have a stronger dialogue around these issues. I mean, the technical issues are really important, of course, but the governance issues around internet, what's happening, I think are equally important. That you keep this openness, that they keep this multi-stakeholderism, as I call it, when you well, actually, you have the different roles, and you accept and you respect the different roles of the different stakeholders. But then you can cooperate from your role and your responsibility. Have a dialogue with another organization that has another responsibility and do things together. I really believe in that. And many other things, exchange experience and so on. And I know that you think that this little bit fluffy stuff I've been talking about. It is. But behind those fluffy words, I think there are, let's see, boink. This is very important, I think, but there has to be concrete actions behind it. I mean, it's not cooperate and go to meetings and so on. No, it has to be like on a day-to-day basis, cooperation and dialogue. Make sure we don't make stupid regulations, I'm talking about the government now, or do other things in our organization that's not in line with whatever. I mean, sanity check and these kind of things. But it has to be on a day-to-day basis, I think. And one thing I know that my colleagues from SUNET have been talking about is a little bit these Atlas probes with RIPE NCC, for instance, how we can use them more to you make measurements and so on. That's an interesting thing. I don't know how many of you are using those probes in your networks. Maybe you are. Does anybody use those probes? Yeah, some of you, cool. Okay, we will do the same at SUNET. Another thing that I would like to mention is also the capacity building or digital divide, or call it whatever. One of the speakers also talked about it in the I think it was on Monday, about you know, no, it was from the tech meeting, the technical advisory committee meeting. We're talking about it. I think it came from a Reykjavik group. I don't remember wrong, but anyway, that try to help NRENs in less developed countries to be, you know, on board and help them with their activities. And our Swedish internet exchange company, NetNode, you listened to Curtis Lindquist the other day, they are doing a bunch of activities in this area. And for instance, in November, they went to Congo Kinshasa, had a week of education for persons, and then on Friday they kind of kick-started the IX, and I think the minister were there clipping some band or whatever. But it was good, and then it struck me also because in that audience in Congo Kinshasa, it was not only technical persons that should take care of the day-to-day business with the IX after NetNode and the other persons involved. From ISOC was there, of course, as well. But there were also regulators there. Of course, they saw that this getting an internet exchange in the country is going to change the market, of course. So the regulation needs to kind of be on track and prepared for that kind of activities and that kind of change. And by being there in Congo Kinshasa, the NetNode person that was there also got to know the NRENs there and the NREN there, and he or she, I don't remember, wanted to have contact with SUNET or other NRENs and you know, exchange experience and these kind of things. But I said that I'm really happy to do that, but I would like to do that in a structured form. But I know now, I've been talking to many of you here, that there are activities in line with this happening already. Dante, I know does a few things, actually a lot of things, I think. And some NRENs already have their kind of friends in other countries and helping them out, having, you know, exchange of technical person, these kind of things. I would like SUNET to be engaged in these kind of things as well, but I would like to do it in a structured way, kind of in line what you're doing in the strategy that you have. That would be very nice. Anyway, I'm so happy to be a member of this community, a new community for me. So I'm looking forward to a lot of work together with you. And thank you so much for letting me having the closery dinner. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria, for giving this interesting presentation. And I will ask the audience for questions. There's
Hi, Maria. Thank you very much. Robin Wilton from the Internet Society. So one of the multinational bodies that you didn't talk about a great deal was the European Commission. And I wondered if you could say a few words about, for example, the regulations you mentioned in trust service provision.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm sorry, I had them, they were in the picture. And you mentioned the high-level group of internet governance. I was acting in that group. So, of course, the European Commission is active in these areas, together with the countries, of course. And now I'm talking about more the internet governance in general. We have this high-level group on internet governance with representatives from all countries. I was a part of that before I left the government. But this particular proposal, actually, I don't know so much about it, else than that it's not in line with what we are doing with our ID systems and trust services. And the feeling I got after this person's presentation was, I don't think they had maybe I'm wrong, I can admit it even saying something, but maybe they didn't have so much dialogue with RIPE and CC, for instance, with other organizations that actually do it, I mean, experts. And one thing that I didn't mention that I really feel, I mean, come on, the entrants were from the beginning. I know that now. The entrants were from the start. We need to take charge again, I think, in this area. And one of the things is I don't think the European Commission didn't have any dialogue with these kind of experts. I mean, we the entrants, have been working with these kind of identification systems since so long. We are experts in this area. I think it's a lack of dialogue. I can't say anymore. But of course, I would, what do you say, maybe propose that you go to your governments when you come home and talk to them and say, come on, do you know anything about this? And what is the government of your country's view on this? I did it immediately, of course, because it was my colleague just a few months ago. So I called them and said, what the shoot is happening here? Wow. So my former colleague, Louise, who is working with this, she said, oh, I didn't know. So please come with some concrete, comments that she could pass on to the European Commission. So I would suggest you to do the same.
Thank you for the question, for answer. Is there any other question? Okay. May I ask one?
Yes.
Yes. What do you presume the Netherlands have to do to be more involved in this governance of internet? Some concrete steps.
Well,
next steps.
Well, yeah. As I said, I mean, you can't go to all meetings. I mean, run around the world on meetings, and I think the day-to-day dialogue with your government, depending on what the issue is, of course, I think is a good way. Yes. I mean, in this reference group that we have in Sweden and this is like a bunch of agencies, the police force, NetNord is there, of course, the ISOC.se chapter is there, and we try to lift a bunch of things. And recently, the discussion about human rights and internet and open internet, these kind of things, has also been very, very interesting to discuss in this group. So having a reference group or having good contact with your government on a day-to-day basis. But as I said, some governments are not really famous for being so open, so that could be tricky, but still. And of course, there are meetings. I mean, for instance, more entrants at the RIPE meetings, maybe, and more other persons coming to Terena meetings, more governments maybe, I don't know. Mm-hmm. So, but I really believe in the day-to-day dialogue.
Yes, could I conclude it? Be more visible.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is another question? If not, Maria, thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you again. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching the end of our conference, and I think it's time for some recapitulation, closing remarks, and some announcement. Yes. The theme of this conference, organized by Terena and hosted by SurfNet, was Innovating Together. I would like to thank the program committee chaired by David Foster. Thank you, David, to prepare such nice program. I hope you enjoy it, and I think the program committee done a very great job. Thank you again. Ladies and gentlemen, if you were at the last TNC last year, you may remember that Terena gave special recognition to Klaas Wierenga because 10 years earlier he had shared an idea that bore fruit. That idea was EduRoam. Continuing this new tradition, this year, Terena would like to pay tribute to another member of our community who also contribute a great deal. He was a valuable member of several international working groups and task forces with Terena, IGTF, EU Grid PMI, OGF, and JANT. He was also a member of the program committee for this conference. But he suddenly left us on the New Year Eve. Milan Sova was a very good friend and fellow for many of us. Nicole Harris of Terena is now going to come and say a few words on behalf of many people who knew Milan well and miss him. Thank you.
It's an honor to be asked to stand here today and talk about Milan Sova. I could easily spend much of the time talking about the significant impact Milan had on the Terena community. For many of us, he was the authoritative source for all things PKI, and his insight, his sharp mind, helped to form and shape REFEDS, the Terena Certificate Service, and EduRoam, to name just a few things. Milan was part of the programme committee for this meeting. He very much should have been here today. When we learned the sad news of Milan's passing on the 31st of December last year, what struck me the most personally were the memories, stories, and anecdotes of Milan that people shared. I'd like to share some of those with you now, using the words of his many, many friends from our world. Milan could say no better than anyone else I know. It was always immediately followed by a detailed and insightful argument explaining why no was the right answer, and he was normally right. He was also very good at asking why, and when I remember the input that Milan had in all of our many meetings and discussions, I will always consider the importance of no and the importance of why. Many of us, including me, had the ability to frustrate Milan a lot. There is a specific EduRoam picture that was sure to see Milan putting his head on the desk in despair. He thought our endless discussions on federation names were amusing, but he was very patient with us. When Philippe developed the logo for his company AnyRoam, Milan looked at the proposal with a completely blank face. As Philippe began to panic and ask what was wrong, Milan replied, "No, you do not understand. This is a good reaction. I did not say no." Milan travelled the world not only for Terena, but also as part of his engagement with IETF and the IGTF, and many of you had the opportunity to share those journeys with him. Whether it was getting lost in the snow, queuing for US SIM cards, or smiling as Milan ordered his standard of green tea amongst the sea of beer orders, we all have personal memories of those trips. For me, the expression on Milan's face as Heather and I explained the plot of a certain popular book will stay with me forever. It's a very personal comment. We will miss his sense of humour, his companionship, and the insights and knowledge he shared with us. There is no way to adequately express our thanks for Milan, but on behalf of Terena, we have a small gift that we'd like to present to CESNET for the CESNET office in memory of Milan and with our gratitude and our remembrance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicole, for this memory. And I would like to continue with a slightly older tradition. It is that a part of the TNC program is the sponsored student poster contest, where students present their ideas and results of their work. According to the theme of conference, we innovated together with the sponsors, Cisco and Internet Society, for the first time, the evaluation process for awarding the best students poster involved now you. So let me invite the sponsors representative, Chris Lonvik from Cisco and Andrej Robachevsky from Internet Society to tell us who is the winner.
So this is I'm Chris Lonvik with Cisco Systems, and this is the 5th year that we've sponsored students, the 2nd year with Internet Society. For Cisco's part, we like doing this. We like bringing the new, young, developing talent, the academics, the students, to meet with people who actually really run networks. We think this is the prime venue to do that because there are so many people here that actually can talk well with these students and bring them up to speed on what is really happening in real networks.
Yeah, I am Andrej Robachevsky from the Internet Society, and for us it's very important to support this activity. We're very glad that we're part of this second time because we see this kind of increasing engagement from young blood or fresh blood to this community. And I think it's very important for the community building and for a sustainable future of NRANs as well. So very glad that we have a winner as well.
So actually the winners are all 10 students who showed up. We had a selection process that we went through. We found these, out of a bunch of posters, these 10 that actually have some new, fresh ideas. The students worked on them very well. Just real quick, can we have the students stand up? And everyone take a look around where they are. Come on, everyone, stand up. We won't embarrass you for a minute. Give them a hand. Good. Thank you. Go ahead and sit back down. Let's see, we hope that these interactions between the students, I hope everyone here went down to the posters, talked to the students, and exchanged the ideas. These people actually can benefit from your ideas. Just talking to them can give them some fresh ideas, the interactions of what's going on in the schools that they're going to. Hopefully that gave you all some new ideas as well. So out of all of this, we hope that we've added a whole bunch to this wonderful conference here. Yes.
So it's time to announce the winner. And the winner is Marko Dolničar from University of Ljubljana, Slovenia, for his work Layer 2 User Protection and EduRAM. Thank you very much. And Marko, we invite Marko. Yeah, we'd like to invite Marko to the stage to present the prize, please.
Here he comes.
And Marko, I apologize if I pronounced your surname incorrectly.
Just real quick while he's coming down here, this is the 3rd year that he's presented at a poster here, learning more each time and interacting more with the community and actually finally winning the thing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. And as a gift, we have a Samsung Galaxy Tab 2. It is all yours. Thank you
very much.
Okay, thanks. You're done.
Thank you very much. Thanks to Chris and Andrej, and applause again for the winner and all the participants of this contest too. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let me start the statistical part of my presentation. In this conference, we had 131 speakers in 4 plenaries and 32 parallel sessions. In addition, there will be 8 open space sessions in this afternoon. We registered a record number of side meetings, booths, workshops, and demonstrations. I hope you enjoyed them, and nevertheless, I believe you also save time to meet friends or visit the city of Maastricht. Continuing the statistics, you see this number of participants. Unexpectedly, I have to say, we get a new record of the number of participants, 648. I presume it is due to lucky constellation of the TNC renown, respected host, nice location, and of course, of the network ability of our community. Thank you all of participants to be here and yes, participate here. And now, some technical numbers. Yes, we get a total of 900 visits from 61 countries using streaming of our sessions. Yes, there were EduRoam working very nicely. And I would like to mention that for first time, this conference was connected to the world using the 100 gigabit networks, which result from a joint effort of 6 NRNs and 2 commercial partners. It was, I think, very great results of the cooperation, and thank again, and I think participants used this connection for communicate and for demonstration. Thank again, and okay, and I am going to part of the session thanking the people or organization involved in this conference. I will start thanking to speakers in session chairs, mainly the keynote speakers, Pablo Rodriguez, Steve Wolf, Kurt Erik Lindqvist, Kenji Takeda, Robin Wilton, and Maria Hall. Thank you, them. I would like to thank Surfnet for hosting this conference, but I think it is more appropriate to invite President of Terena. He is here for an official acknowledgement. Pierre, please.
Thank you. Is Erwin there? I will ask him to come on stage. In my introduction, I knew that Surfnet will do a good job, but I don't know how you did leave it, but for me it was fantastic. We really enjoy all the conference and also the gala dinner. It was really tremendous. So we know it's a very small thing in comparison with the effort you did, but this is for you in recognition of the artwork, and really we want to thank you today. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Another one.
Connectivity is the is the engine for creativity and innovation. And I was talking in the opening session about that chance favors the connected minds, and that you have to create environments to be able to interact, to come to new ideas. And Lonneke, can you please come here? Because one moment has been very important to have this environment this week over here to connect together. And well, I didn't do that many, but she has. And can you please all stand up and give a big hand of applause for Lonneke Walk? And I would like to thank the Torina people for being this open about organizing the conference, in doing some things differently than previous years. And that was a very nice collaboration we had with Torina. And I would like to keep doing this work in the next few years, the Giangi, Pierre, Valentino, and thank you.
Maybe I have to blame you, because nobody will you will discourage everybody to be a candidate for the next TNC. So thank you. I have the next one. This one. I have two other persons to thank. So I will ask Alberto and Christophe to come on stage. I suppose you know both of them. There were two members of the Trena executive member for 6 long years. They help a lot the president, the chairman, in his work, and they dedicate a lot of their time in order to help us to progress. And so I want first to give you this. It's also a very small thing. It's a book. It's I think about the Tour de France, because you like bicycle. So thank you very much, Alberto.
Thanks, Alex. Perfect choice.
Another one. And the second person to thank is Christophe. Christophe has been the vice president for the technical program. I suppose you know very well him also. He was very helpful also for the president, because sometimes when I'm lost in the discussion, he helped me to find a compromise. He's Swiss, so he knows what a compromise is. So, Christophe, thank you very much. For you. Another one, picture.
And now we would like to thank all people who worked hard to ensure that all in this conference went smoothly. Yes? Okay. Then I would like to invite on the stage heads of the teams involved in this. The first is Lonneke Walk from SurfNet team. Then Erik Kickenborg from Nordunet team. And Wim Rijm. Claudio Alocchio from Lola Performance team.
He's here.
He's here. He's. Claudio is here. Raquel Perez from student team Inter UIM. Paul Schelling from MEC. Mark Bartolomeus for HB Media Verhoor. Ilona Vermeuren from Powers Congress Organization.
Can you please a little bit move to the more to the front? Because you are a big group, so I would like to. If you can
And
move
Miroslav Čirnek from Platon TV. And you from Terana Stuff?
I'm not ready.
Yeah.
Please give a big applause.
Yes. Okay, then big applause for those.
May I say a few words? May I say a few words? If I may say a few words, I would like to thank the organization, SurfNet, and the whole team for their hard work during the whole week. Without them, this wouldn't have happened. So please, again, stand up and give a big applause to the whole team.
Please rest standing. And big applause for the more important person. It's Genji Horvat. Genji, thank you very much. And last but not at least, I would like to thank all of our sponsors who helped us to realize this event. Thank you very much. Yes, as you know, and as you has been informed during this conference, the team is innovating together, And for this reason, program committee prepared an innovation directly in the program scheme. The conference will not be closed as usual after this session, but there will be 8 open space sessions this afternoon. This session will be held in room Auditorium 2, Athens, Press Room and Rome, and the session starts at 2 o'clock. During the conference, you could make put some idea on the flip charts and pre-prepare the agenda of this session. But after this closing plenary, you can go downstairs and join the agenda creation with the support of Leif Johansson. Leif, please. Are you here? And finish the agenda. Leif, do you want to? Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I bet you're all ready to go home, but we're not done yet. So you get some lunch and then come down to where the flip charts are. The flip charts who were up by the up on the first level. I think they've been moved down to the lower level now, and we'll gather at those flip charts after lunch, around 2 o'clock. And we're going to do something called agenda creation. That means that we'll pick and choose among the proposed sessions, and then we'll divide them among the 4 rooms. And this is a process called open space technology. If you're curious about the origins of this and where it comes from, read the Wikipedia entry of open space technology over lunch. It's a really good introduction to the process. So please join me there, 2 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you, Leif. Yes, and looking at the future, I would like to introduce the new program committee, which will be led by Eric Hauser from SurfNet. This program committee will prepare the program or schedule for the next conference. And now I would like to invite John Bolan from EHNet to invite you to the next venue, to the TNC 2014. John, please.
Thank you, Helmut. So let's talk about the look of the Irish. As Pierre was saying there, how lucky do I feel today hosting this conference next year. After such a historic celebration last night for SurfNet's 25 years, fantastic, and such a great conference. But thinking about it, Ireland has a history with Tirrena. In fact, in 1990, in a meeting in Killarney in County Kerry, that's peace broke out amongst the community, and Tirrena was one of the outcomes of that. In 2002, we hosted the Tirrena conference in Limerick, so it'll be 12 years on. So we thought it was time to have another look at it. We'll be continuing. It's been an excellent conference. We'll be continuing that trajectory. We'll be moving to an academic environment, back to University College Dublin for the venue. And it'll be 12 years. Ireland has changed a lot in that 12 years. It's a modernized country now in some ways. So I've got a 3-minute clip here to give you a flavor of what awaits you in the more modern Ireland. So.
Rebel view, one on one.
get the high-definition video buffering sorted out as well. Okay, so really all that remains is to assure you we'll wish you a warm welcome to Dublin next year. Our preparations have started already. On your way out, you can get a travel plug adapter to help you on your journey. So look forward to seeing you there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John, for this invitation. And now I'm going to close this session. Thank you very much for participation on this session, as well as on participation on the whole conference. Thank you all for coming. Enjoy the rest of the conference, namely the open space session and the lunch before. Do not forget to fill the feedback forms, and I wish you a safe trip home and see you at least at Dublin. Thank you very much.